All right, everybody, we're back for another episode of Jay Reason Stream, getting it back into these AFC NFC Championship games recap, ladies and gentlemen. The road to Super Bowl 58 has been a wild one, a really wild one. It's been exciting. It's had its moments, and we're going to talk about it tonight. We're going to talk about it tonight. Before we do, make sure you guys hit that like, that thumbs up, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Click that bell, turn on your notifications as we get into it. I want to start off by saying I definitely appreciate each and every one of you for rocking with me over this last season, and if you've been rocking with me for the last 4 seasons. And it's been a wild ride for sure, without a doubt. So I appreciate all you guys for tuning in and supporting the channel and all that good stuff. Shout out to the Wrench Gang and the family for holding it down. And as we start getting into these, spring, summer months, we'll obviously get into some basketball, some baseball and stuff like that. And that's how the streaming schedule is going to go moving forward. Obviously, we got the Pro Bowl in the fourth. I'll be streaming that, and then obviously the Super Bowl. But between that time, we'll start getting into some college basketball, and we'll sprinkle in some NBA as well. Starting to heat up. But tonight we're going to recap. We are going to recap, and then I'm thinking Thursday night, I will do my Super Bowl 58 prediction. We'll do the Super Bowl 58 prediction on Thursday night, get that going a little bit early. And then we'll have some fun with some basketball until football starts back up. So there you go. Now, recap, AFC and NFC Championship. Well, now, where do we start? Well, let's start with Kansas City. I think Kansas City, without a doubt, has been very surprising, right? We had everything that we were talking about in regards to Mahomes having meltdowns and, Travis Kelce not showing up. And then obviously the Chiefs having problems with wide receivers and all those kind of situations. And then we get into as far as, them showing up when it comes to the playoffs. And I think that's what matters the most, right? We've been shown that this year. We've been shown that multiple years, having a slow start or having a rough start. And then when it comes down to the wire, your superstars show up, they ball out, and they prove why they're essentially the champions. And that's just the reality of it. On the flip side, obviously, with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson probably having the best year that he's had of his career. There was, some discussions in regards to him, not really having to be as productive, but playing well enough to obviously keep his team in the position to do what they did in the regular season. Obviously, when against the Texans in the playoffs, but then fail to show up in this championship. So when we get into the stats and everything like that, it's really interesting to me. I'll take a look at this, and I was trying to really digest it. But looking at Patrick Mahomes, right, he had 30 of 39 attempts, 241 yards. His average was 6.2. He had one touchdown. He was sacked twice for 11 yards. His QBR was 91.1. As far as Lamar, he was 20 of 37, had 272 yards. He averaged 7.4, one touchdown, one interception. He had 4 sacks of 17 yards, and his QBR was 42.9. Now, here's what's crazy to me. If you take away the interception, Lamar Jackson was more productive than Patrick Mahomes. And this is where we get into these conversations as far as, who was the better quarterback and who made better decisions. So the stats are not always the outlier. The stats are not always the determining factor as far as, what's going to help a quarterback go out there and get the win. You can have tons of yards. You can have, tons of good plays. But if that doesn't translate to touchdowns, which is what the Ravens had the biggest issue of, they couldn't get down the field. They couldn't score. So even with all these yards, they weren't able to actually make any specific plays with the personnel they had on the field. And a lot of people are mad. A lot of people are upset. And I get it, because at the end of the day, when you look at all the talent that the Ravens have and the personnel on the squad, there's no reason why you're putting the future and basically the Super Bowl in the hands of Zay Flowers. And that's not to discredit him, because he's a very talented man. I advocate for him. He's great at route running. He's fast. He's got good hands for the most part. And, you have all these other pieces out there that have the veteran experience, You're in the biggest game of your life. You're in your biggest moment, and you go out there and you don't execute. And so that's the biggest thing. Looking at Mark Andrews, he's coming back. He should have been a huge factor in this game, and he wasn't. And it's really a shame. It's really a shame. But what do we see here from Kansas City? All these guys that got, the hate for not catching the ball. All the guys that got, the most ridicule for not catching the ball. They ended up stepping up when it matters the most and going out there and balling for Kansas City and this Chiefs team. And that's something that we got to pay attention to, right? That's something we got to pay attention to. Andy Reid, being a masterful coach that he is, definitely outcoach Harbaugh in this situation. And it's great to see. It's respectable. Once again, to be the champions, you have to beat the champions. And the Ravens just fell short. It's really a shame because, it goes against the color scheme for sure. But with that said, I do think at the end of the day, the Ravens will be back. I don't think it's going to be a one and done situation for them. They have shown that they are resilient. They have shown that they have the tools to get the job done. And it'll be interesting to see how they perform next year for sure, as long as Lamar can stay healthy and the key pieces involved stay healthy as well. So it's not over for the Ravens. They have got a great team. They've got great talent over there. I'm not sure what happens with OBJ because, hey, he was another one that just wasn't a non-factor. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Um, but without a doubt, I definitely think that that Ravens team will will figure it out next year, and it's not over for Lamar and company, not at all. As far as for the Chiefs, they'll move on. They'll go to Super Bowl 58. Patrick Mahomes looking to improve on his legacy. And, there's been a lot of talks as far as whether or not he's in the GOAT conversation and things like that. And respectfully, right? You guys know I don't like to compare anybody to anybody. That's this own person. That's their own legacy that they're building. That's their own name brand. He's creating his own path. He's creating his own future, and it looks good. You can't no matter if your team is beat by them, no matter if your team is always having a hard time with the Chiefs. The reality is this: you have to respect greatness. Just like with Tom Brady. When Tom Brady was out there, I respected greatness. I may have hated losing to the man, but at the end of the day, I respected the talent and I respected his motivation, his work ethic, and his drive because that's what made him great out on the field. And I think that's where Patrick Mahomes is. Right? He's at that point where now he's able to get his team to multiple Super Bowls. He's a generational talent, and right now we're seeing that no matter how you feel about the Swifties and Taylor Swift and all that kind of stuff. The reality is this: the Chiefs have been fighting all year, and they showed up when it mattered the most, and they ended up in the Super Bowl. So let me hop into these comments. Shout out to Jory. What up? What's going on with you, Jory, in the house? John says Mahomes is a great quarterback. For sure. DJ Gene says, I love the haters. 357 says, getting there. Mark Sorensen says, bang, bang. What up, yo? What's going on with you? Matt says, yeah, but nothing but respect for both these teams. They are the best of the best. Yeah, and without a doubt, I think the biggest thing as far as both these teams getting into the championship is you kind of expected the Ravens to get there, right? Just because they were so dominant. They had that great offense and of course, the good defense, which then turned into great later on in the season. And then obviously, Kansas City wasn't really looking too dominant, but then they pulled it together at the last second. That's all that matters. Once you get out of the regular season, you make it to the post, nothing that you did in the regular season matters because it's win or go home. So you either show up and you move forward or you don't show up and you go home. And that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it for sure. Ryan says, I don't care. I need the Niners to win. Shout out to you, Karen. What up, yo? What's going on with you? Jory says Tom Brady cheated the game of football. Why doesn't anybody talk about that? So people do talk about it. That's why there's so many gates, right? There's the Flake Gate and the Tuck Rule and all kinds of stuff, right? We talk about Tom Brady and these situations all the time, right? He has a legacy shrouded by the idea of cheating. So, I don't think people don't talk about it because it's talked about a lot. If it wasn't talked about, we wouldn't know about these terms that have been created just from him or for him. But the reality is this: when you say that someone's cheated, right, or when you say that someone has created a better opportunity for themselves, how many times is it going to happen before we sit back and say, okay, this person has the drive, the talent to go out there and win, opposed to what we may think or what we may say is cheating, right? Because there was a time where we didn't talk about scripting and rigging, right? There was a time where we believed that the game was on the up and up. And back then, that was around the time where it was, well, Tom Brady cheated, right? Quote unquote. And when you look at those specific games and when you look at the opportunities that any other team has had, they had the same amount of players on the other side of the field. Can you stop this man? Can you stop him from scoring? Can you be up in a blowout looking like a blowout victory in a Super Bowl, and then come back and win the game? So when we talk about cheating, I look at that kind of stuff. I look at that kind of Super Bowl in which you thought that the Atlanta Falcons had won the game and everyone's freaking out and oh my goodness, Atlanta's done it. And then Tom Brady comes back and wins the Super Bowl. So there's there's levels to it, right? There's levels to the conversation. There may be moments, there may be games where someone feels that this player cheated. There may be moments in different games where other people feel like they didn't. What I've found is this: over the years, the majority of people who, and I'm not saying this is you specifically, I'm just saying what I've seen over the years. The majority of people who get really upset about either a script or rigging or cheating is normally on the opposite side of the winning team. That's just the reality of it. Now, that's not to discredit their feelings or emotions or opinion about it, but that's just the reality of it, right? Nobody cries when you're winning. Everybody cries when the team's losing. So we may scrutinize under deflated balls and things like that, right? But at the end of the day, did they win the game? And did someone else lose because of their defense? Did someone else not play up to the elite level that they needed to go out there and beat this person even while they were cheating? Or on the flip side, is the other team cheating as well? Are they doing stuff that we just didn't pay attention to, or did we just zero in and focus on this one specific person because they're just that good? I'm just saying, it's all kinds of stuff that we talk about. It's all kinds of opinions and things that we get into, and you know that's just the reality of it. It's just the reality of it. Shout out to Mark says script sheep got to be the dumbest parents I've ever seen. Script the pass of a face mask to a player. Got to be kidding me. Yeah, it's hard, man. It's and that's why I said. I mean, we can talk about it now, but while I'm streaming these games, I don't really I don't really want to get into like the whole scripted thing, you know. And I'll leave that for you guys to do. I'll leave that for you guys to talk about. But me personally, we know that some people can be influenced by money. But I'll tell you this, these guys are getting paid millions of dollars. You know, at the end of the day, what are you paid to go do? You're paid to go do a specific job. You're paid to go out there and play to the best of your ability. And people who want to make money, which I would think this business is for money, right? It's for profit. You would go out there and play your best, give your best for the fans, give your best for your teammate, give your best for your own personal accolades, your own personal goals. And would you at what point do you let your own morals get involved when you're already making money? Because we see it from time to time. right? If we're going to talk about things being scripted and rigged, well, how about the fact of people betting on themselves, right? If the rigging and scripting was so heavily saturated in the league, why do players get fined for betting on themselves? Right? Wouldn't that be against the standard of rigging and stuff? Or would it be like, oh, well, we didn't want people to know that they were betting on themselves, so we're going to find them. So it just looks like we're not rigging or scripting the game. You know, like I said, certain people can be influenced. We've seen it from time and time again with the refs talking about certain situations from way back in the day. We know that. Oh, we've got points on 76ers. So we're going to call these fouls on AI a little bit more. We're going to call him for a travel a little bit more. That's one specific person that could potentially influence the game. But when you talk about scripting and rigging from a grand scheme of things, I just don't think it makes sense. I just don't think it makes sense. I think a few people could influence different calls. I do think a few people could influence different things with flags and penalties and things like that. But from a grand scheme of things, I don't think the game is rigged that way in that way. Shout out to Chris says, "Go Niners." What up, man? What's going on with you? Michael says they are giving you 2 points to take KC. Michael says 49ers is by 2 is what I see on my book. Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get into the predictions for the Super Bowl on Thursday. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into these Lions and these 49ers, ladies. Lions and 49ers. Now, I did have a lot to say. Shout out to you, Michael. I did have a lot to say in regards to Dan Campbell because I feel like as a leader, right, as a leader of the team, as the individual who makes the decisions, the play calls, the offense, the defense, all this kind of stuff, right? As an individual who will go out on that field and you're making decisions for this franchise, this organization, with ramifications that only affect the players, but the fans, the legacy of the team, everything, right? I think first we have to appreciate what Dan Campbell has done for this team and for this franchise and how he's led them out of the dumps of hell, essentially, and put them in a great space of renewed faith, right? A renewed faith, a renewed spirit for this Lions team. The caveat to that is you have a coach who tends to be too aggressive, tends to make tough decisions. I'm not going to say bad because it only becomes a bad decision when it doesn't work out. Because if it does work out, then we're giving them the praise, right? Because it has worked out in the past. But as we say, past success doesn't guarantee future results. And that's the reality of it. Past success does not guarantee future results. So at what point do you become the logical and rational coach, right? At what point do you become the coach that thinks things through opposed to going with the gut? And unfortunately, we've seen this multiple times where Dan Campbell has cost the team because he chose not to take the easy points. And I think that with the Lions being in the situation that they were in, they should have not only taken the points multiple times, but not understanding that, hey, we have a solid lead against one of the most dominant teams in the NFL in a championship game, no less. We need to keep adding on to that every drive. Every time we get within the red zone, every time we get within the 30, we have to put up points. So if it's 4th and 3, if it's 4th and 4, we need to kick that ball and add on to these points. And I basically said in the middle of that game that, hey, we're going to see if those 3 points come back to bite Dan Campbell and this Lions team in the ass. And at the end of the day, they ended up losing 31-34. So it's really unfortunate. You know, I respect Dan Campbell for the coach that he is. I absolutely love the Detroit Lions. Their offense has been nothing short of amazing. The defense had their issues, but they've been playing some good ball. So, it's not over for the Lions. I'm sure they'll have another run at it. But the real question is, when does that lane end? When does that window start to close for any team, right? Every team has a window between talent, coaches, and a little bit of luck and it being your moment, right? All that plays into part. When does that end? And I think that's a good question. I think that's another topic that we'll have to get into. But on the flip side, how about the 49ers? All this talk, all this discussion in regards to Brock Purdy and what he's been able to do out in the field. Brock Purdy and what he was as far as a game manager, a system quarterback. I told you guys last year that Brock Purdy would be the franchise of the San Francisco 49ers before they even made it to the championship. People doubted me, people, didn't like what I was saying. And I said, all right, well, just watch. Just watch. I do think that, this Brock kid's going to be something special. And not only that, he's shown us that he has the ability to come back in a game that looks out of reach. And he's done it multiple times now. We first, I think we haven't seen this man run at all in the regular season. Short stuff, but listen, in this NFC championship game, we have seen Brock Purdy run like nobody else. When it mattered the most, he went out there and he made a play or a few plays for this team to get them in position to go down there and win. And it was something special to see because I feel like a lot of people, even including myself, I did have the 49ers written off because I'm like, hey, listen, this thing looks like it's out of hand. And they fought. Lions slowed down. 49ers defense figured it out. And you had a 49 or yeah, 49ers team offense figured it out and then got everything together with the proper adjustments. Kyle Shanahan, I know he's had his issues as far as, hey, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. We don't really got to change anything. But I do feel like this was one game where he actually said, all right, I've got to make the proper adjustments to go out here and get this team to win. And the talent stepped up and did it. So, shout out to the 49ers going to Super Bowl 48 or 58, Super Bowl 58, and they'll be going against Kansas City. It's going to be a hell of a show for sure. And what we get is red and red. Not red and purple, ladies and gentlemen. Red and red. Shout out to you, Purple. Much love. Uh, Let me hop into these comments real quick. Hop into these comments. Shout out to you, Michael. What up, yo? What's going on with you? Fact of the matter says, and if a true analyst was a coach, he would not go for it. If he made 7 and 8, he would know regression was due. That's a fact, right? We talk about certain situations with coaches and how they make these decisions to go for it on a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2. Well, we know what the Eagles are going to do, right? That's a tried and true method that I think is, I'm not going to give an exact percentage, but I know it's very high. It's very high. It's a very high success rate. So they're going to touch push. They'll pick up the 1 or 2 yards. They'll get it almost every time. If you don't have a play like that and you're just winging it, and especially if you're throwing on, 4th and 2, it's a very, very high risk on throwing on a 4th down play. And so, when you don't get it, it's kind of like a gut punch because it turns into bad football. One time, all right, people will tend to let it go. But when you start seeing this repetitiousness of or repetition of making the same mistakes over and over and it costs your team, that's when we start having to look at your decision making and whether or not you're capable of going out there and winning the big games by making the right decisions. And that's where, being a coach that has a sound mind that can play chess comes into play. We always see it. We always see it. Shout out to you, Michael. Dan Campbell has been very aggressive. They got the Lions fired up for a great season. He should have put that aggressive attitude in his pocket for an NFC Championship game. Yeah, without a doubt. And we can beat that horse. Beat that dead horse. Keep doing it. But I think the reality is this: he tried to keep a level of, I want to say, a level of identity, right? I don't want to change who I am. And sometimes that comes back to bite you in the ass because you're not just coaching for you, you're coaching for 52 individuals. And I think the reality is once you understand that, you'll start to make better decisions based on the team as a whole. I'm not saying that he doesn't do that. I'm just saying in certain times and certain points, I do think that he puts his own level of aggression above what may be best for the team in general. Shout out to you, Michael. Much love, you. They barely beat the Packers as the Packers missed a field goal and the Lions were stomping them. That's what happens when the defense allows a team to get that many touchdowns, my friend. Shout out to Lobos. This morning, Jay, I called KC versus San Francisco for Super Bowl 58 from East Africa. If you remember, I want to hear your 3 cents about Taylor Swift versus the racist folks. Um, there was this conversation earlier, and I mean, it doesn't matter. We're not on a gang stream. We're just talking. So this is what I've found, and social media has gotten so crazy. Or I say over the last decade, right? It used to be just pictures and you know stupid, funny stuff that we were sharing on social media, and now we're getting into the point where well, not even getting to. We're at the point where social media kind of just controls the narrative for almost everything, and it's sad because a lot of people not only get their news from social media, but they actually follow like certain like facts through social media. And what I mean by that is they think that things are real based on what they see on social media. And that's some scary shit. Like it really is. It's really scary to think that certain people out here, which they are, think that certain things they may see on TikTok or certain things they see on Facebook or even YouTube are true and facts. And that's why they have the fact checkers now and the things like that, especially when you go on Twitter, you'll see a post and then if it's incorrect, you'll see they'll add additional context at the bottom. It's sad that it's came to that, but that's the reason why. You ever wonder why they have the fact checkers under that kind of stuff now? That's why. Because for instance, the Taylor Swift versus whatever situation, right? Right now there's a discussion going on as far as who's more popular between Taylor Swift and Beyonce, who has more reach, who moves the needle more. And Sharp and Ocho was just actually talking about this, and Shannon Sharp had said Taylor Swift moves the needle more, and then Ocho was kind of upset. He was like, "Nah, it's Beyonce." The reality is this: if you don't pay attention to what's going on from a marketing standpoint, business standpoint, how music is moving right now, then you probably wouldn't really realize that Taylor Swift does have the whole marketing thing down packed. And that's no disrespect to Beyonce because she does her own numbers. But I'll tell you this right now. If Taylor Swift and Beyonce was to announce a concert tomorrow, Taylor Swift is going to sell out way faster than Beyonce. There will be no tickets left after about 5 to 10 seconds. You'll still be able to get Beyonce tickets 5, 10 minutes later. That's just the reality of it. So when you start to understand that, you start to understand the power that this person has as a pop star. Now, how does that translate to football, right? Well, you have a situation where Taylor Swift dates Travis Kelsey. He just so happens to be a part of the Chiefs, and they just so happen to be the Super Bowl champions, right? There was a article that just came out that Taylor Swift, since her and Travis just started dating, have generated $331 million for the NFL. $331 million for the NFL and the Chiefs. That is absolutely insane. Nobody else is doing that. Eminem's not doing that. I don't think Beyonce's doing it. Jay-Z's not doing it. Uh, we're in a really weird time, a really strange time as far as for not only influencers, but how people can control um, how people use things, how people buy things, how people become fans of things, right? And I was reading another article. It said that there was record viewership for the last three not divisional games, divisional playoffs. had the most views since 88, since 1988, a 9% increase in viewership over the last three playoff games. So, all that stuff is huge. All that stuff is huge. A lot of people say different things as well. Oh, the game's rigged. Well, the game's scripted. Well, you've got a 9% increase in viewership when it comes to this sport, but everyone still keeps talking about scripts and rigging. So either people are just upset and want to find something to talk about, or they don't care. That's just the reality of it. You've got a 9% increase in sports view in viewership in this sport, uh, but people still talk about rigging and scripting. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. That's all I'm saying. Shout out to you, Lobo. Says Fact says he made the one Mahomes type play where 15 made the one hander. You said that more than once, Jay. Yeah, Carl. I've said it multiple times throughout the years. Throughout the years. Shout out to you, Angela. What's going on with you, Angela in the house? Is brainwashing. What up, Natalie? How you doing tonight? Shout out to you, Natalie. Much love. Natalie says F Taylor Swift. Fact says, yo, I was thinking about this yesterday. Kanye, Taylor, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Rock Nation. I don't know, just weird. I ain't gonna throw up the symbol, but you already know what it is. You already know what it is. I ain't going there. I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. Says it's not a chance that the Chiefs were the first pay-per-view playoff game. Listen, that's a whole nother story. If you're not paying attention to how things are going right now and how they may potentially go in the future, it's not about things changing. It's about understanding and adjusting to how those things are going to change. We're going to start seeing big games picked up by various different companies for just that one game, right? We know that Amazon does the whole Thursday night thing. YouTube TV has a Sunday ticket now, right? We just seen what Peacock did where they purchased one playoff game, right? That stuff is going to become more and more as the years go by. So what are we going to do? Are we going to cry about it? Are we going to find a better way to watch the games? Are we going to come together and go out there with the pickets and all that kind of stuff? No. We have to basically just figure out a way to collectively come together and adjust to it. So at the end of the day, there's a reason why I have 7 different subscriptions. It sucks, but hey, if I didn't have it, we obviously wouldn't be able to do what we're doing on a, weekly basis. But that's just the reality of it. They're going to evolve. The world of sports is based on profit. The college kids now are getting paid. College is going to change astronomically because now the kids are getting paid. And that's not a bad thing. Not at all. The kids should be getting paid. They should be getting their just due. They're going out there. They're playing hard. They're giving it their all just like anybody else on a professional level. So they should have a chance to get their family some money, help out their family, and then have the opportunity or the chance to move forward professionally and further on, their career. But, sports is changing. Without a doubt. Shout out to you, Michael. What up, yo? What's going on with you? Says they already have money. Well, that doesn't mean you stop just because you have money, right? Right? Like if you had money today, let's say you had $1 million today, would you just stop working? Would that be it? Buy a house, put some in the savings, just travel the world and live? Or would you keep going? Right? Because honestly, $1 million isn't shit anymore. It's really not. You want a decent house, you're looking at 350, right? Depending on how big your family is. Decent house, 350. Decent car. I mean, if you get something brand new, even a Camry right now is like 30,000, right? Brand new Camry is like 30,000. So right there, you're looking at 380, right? You got to pay your gas, electric, all that kind of stuff. Depending on where you are, that's another $200-300 a month. If your house isn't super efficient, you're probably paying 500 a month total for each. You got to eat, right? Food's super expensive, right? You want to travel, you want to go out to different places, you want to live. That's going to cost you some money. So right there, let's just say, realistically, if you got $1 million just to live comfortably, you've already spent 400 of it. You've already spent 450 of it. You can't live off 600 that or 550,000 for the rest of your life. You still got to work. So when you talk about, well, they already got money, the value of the dollar is going down. So if you're a billionaire, okay, it's really you're under into the hundreds of millions. Billion is really hundreds of millions. Uh, say you got 10 billion, right? Well, then you're playing at a different level, and that's why there's so many billionaires now. But money is not valued like it once was. Everything's going up. Inflation this, inflation that. And at the end of the day, you know, that's why you should have at least two to three different various streams of income for sure. That's a whole nother topic. Whole nother topic. Shout out to Cameron says, Jay, if you could change one thing about the NFL, what would it be? It's a good question. Go back here. If I could change one thing, I think I would change the ref situation. If I could change one thing about the NFL, I think it'd be the refs. I think it would be, and I know someone's going to get mad about this, but the reality is this: I think I would have some kind of AI influence from from a realization of what the rules really are. Right, that way there's no real um biased from the refs. The call is the call, and it's based on the rules and the rule in the NFL rule book. So when you take out the human element, and it's based purely off of all these different cameras and this computer intelligence and things like that, it would remove the idea that this ref screwed up the call, because if they could do that to the field, if they could actually create so many cameras, obviously you don't want to make it so that it's a hindrance, but I'm sure that they have the technology somewhere that could survey the whole field and each individual player on that field, from the speed to how high they jump, all this stuff, that it could accurately figure out each body formation and how it moves, who jumps, who does this, who does that, pass interference, all that kind of stuff. And then it would be based on an actual machine learning prospect that can't work off being biased or can't make the mistakes and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure it'll eventually get there. It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money, but it's probably going to happen. And that's one thing I would change. Shout out to you, comrade. What up, yo? What's going on with you? Yeah, Mark. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's going to take definitely a long time for AI to get to that level, but I do think that's eventually where it will go. And like I said, that'll get rid of the human influence. That'll get rid of, the oh the ref made a bullshit call and people upset and getting mad and all that kind of stuff. And I don't mean like robots, Mark, but what I'm saying is kind of like a computer based system that's based off of cameras, and based off of would be some kind of like infrared situation where it's picking up everything in motion, and it knows down to the finite detail whether or not this call is accurate. And I think that should be utilized somewhere somehow. Fact of the matter says they can do all they want, you are saying, but remember, these billionaires won't buy grass. Well, the question is why won't they buy grass? Let's make that make sense. Why won't they buy grass? Shout out to you, Xavier. What up, yo? What's going on with you? Fact of the matter is, yeah, as long as the calls are bullshit, people are good. It's the inconsistent calls that bugs fans. No, because listen, it's not just even about the inconsistent calls. People get mad at every flag. Tell me I'm lying. People get mad at every flag. As soon as a flag is thrown, people freak out and get upset about it. It doesn't matter if it's a wrong flag, it doesn't matter if it's a right flag. Someone will find a way to get mad about it and upset about it. That's just the reality of it. So, like I said, when you remove the human influence from it and they have to realize that this is a computer based model that is calling it strictly from the rule book, you take out that human element from it, there's nothing to talk about. You can't get mad at that individual. It's just the reality of it. Shout out to Lawrence. His love of money is the reason they don't care about getting and maintaining the grass. Shout out to you, Lawrence. That's a good one, man. That's definitely a good one. And I think at the end of the day, they're looking at it like, okay, we haven't had all these issues in the past and prior years. Why would we do it now? Why would we spend this 13, $14 million to change the field when we can put that somewhere else? You know, they understand that there's going to be injuries. They understand that there's going to be, problems with players every year. They already have the data for that. So I think at the end of the day, that's the biggest factor, right? People who have money because they don't blow it, and especially on things that they don't want to or that they don't see that is going to either make them more money or benefit them directly. Shout out to you, Lawrence. Nika says, "Go 49ers." Let's go. Shout out to you, Nika. Uh, says what I was saying about the robot refs is I don't think the owners care about pouring money into the product. So I think they will. I think it'll come to a point where they have to because the game has to evolve, right? The faster the game gets, the more that the human element or the human eye is not going to be able to get it right. So they're going to have to evolve into some kind of AI or computer based model that's able to figure out penalties because they're trying to make the game faster. That's why it's heavily offensive driven and they've moving away from the defense because they want the play to be faster. They want higher scoring games. They want to, get the crowd excited. They want people to love the game. They don't like when the game's 0-0. They don't want that. And it just so happens that sometimes we do get those kind of games. But, they know that people tune in when it's a high scoring game and it's close. That's what brings in the viewers. That's what brings in the views. So they want the game to be as fast as it can. They want, crazy highlight plays, all that kind of stuff. And that's why it's, moving direction that it is. Matt says teams with top tier tight ends were the only ones who made the playoffs. How do you think the market will react to the 2023 season? Um, I think the big thing going into next season is going to be how they fit in the rotation, right? So I use the Bills as an example. If you look at how they use Dawson Knox and Kincaid, it's one of those situations where we know that Knox was injured, so they had to focus on Kincaid. But I do feel like you're going to start seeing a lot of these big boys. When I say big boys, like the big tight ends, kind of like how we had back in the day, Gronkowski, Knox, people like that, um, become faster, take more hits, run people over. And, those guys it's going to be more of like a mix. That's what I'm thinking. The tight end, even situation right now, you're starting to see someone like Kelsey, right? He's more of a hybrid wide receiver tight end. So I do think they're probably going to start, moving into that realm to make that position a little bit faster heading into next year. I will not actively watch this game. It will be on in the background, but I could care less. I hate both teams. Yeah, that's how some of these Super Bowls go. You know, Super Bowl Sunday, you bring the family around, you bring your friends around, you get some food going, or if you're not big into it, then hey, you probably have it in the background just to know who won. You guys know we'll be here. This will be our fourth Super Bowl, but you know, it's always been a show for the fans And then obviously if your team's playing, then you're rooting for your team. But they make the Super Bowl for everybody. That's how it goes. You know, that's why they have certain people show up for the halftime show. And if you're not an Usher fan, then hey, I haven't been rocking with Usher for a long time, so I'm just gonna go there. But at the end of the day, we're all gonna be we'll be watching it some way somehow. Peter says we'll be watching the big game. Don't care for the team. Shout out to you, Peter. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's gonna boil down to your taste because some headliners are able to attract viewers for the game specifically. Like some people are like, all right, I'll watch the game because you know, Zed Leplin's, or Zed Leplin's playing for the halftime show, or Michael Jackson is playing on for the halftime show, or some big person that everybody knows and everybody rocks with can create those views. I don't think Usher is the man to do that though. To be honest, maybe for the younger demographic. Well, not even the younger demographic because he's going to appeal more to the maybe 30 through 45-year-olds, 30 through 50-year-olds. So it's really interesting how they picked him. It's really wild. But you know, if it's not your cup of tea, it is what it is. It is what it is. The fluke of Ayuk, the strip by Jib, both turning points. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot that went down in that 49ers game that went in favor of them because not only did the Lions defense get tired, but the offense took their foot off the gas as well, for sure. Shout out to Rip says if I didn't live here, I would hate us too. Shout out to you, Rip's World. Says what's his fast songs with like tempo? I'm trying to remember. Um, I know that yeah is one of them. Um, fast tempo songs. For some reason, I'm getting yeah, maybe end this club, our love in the club, whatever it was. Uh, yeah, it's been a minute, man, since I listened to some Usher songs. I couldn't even tell you right now. The last Usher album that I listened to was Confessions. And when did that come out? 2004, 2003. It's been a long time. A long time. What would you do if Swift walked out of the tunnel at halftime? I wouldn't do nothing. I would just be sitting there like, wow, really? I mean, who probably didn't see this coming? Uh, it would be interesting, but I don't think that would happen. I don't think it would happen. Matt says the NFL has terrible taste in musical performances. Well, it's I think it's I don't know if it's some kind of vote or I don't know if it's like, the league specifically picks the individuals. I'm not sure. I don't know. But yeah, it's been really weird for sure. Lobo says, Jay, you ever play with Dogecoin? When it first dropped, yeah, I made some money on it. You know, made some money and then just got rid of it. I never held, those coins like that for a while. I put my money in, made a profit, took it out. Whatever happens, whatever happened. Uh they have some kind of ritual. Oh my goodness. Shout out to you, Lawrence. That's one thing that people do believe, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I will be doing the Super Bowl 58 predictions on Thursday for the 49ers and the Chiefs. Make sure you guys are here for that one. It's going to be a good time. I did put up the poll for you guys to vote as far as who you think would take it. And I'm going to just pull up that poll here so we can see who you guys chose. Looks like we've got 84 votes, 54% for the Chiefs. Okay. All right, 54% for the Chiefs holding it down. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I'm gonna break everything down over the next couple days, and then we'll get into these 49ers, these Chiefs, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, A lot of talent for the 49ers, but you got some grit, some fight, determination in the champion. So it's going to be a lot to discuss, and we'll get into that one. That'll be on Thursday. After that, we'll then get into some college basketball. I'm trying to figure out the schedule for that, and then it's going to be our schedule until Pro Bowl and then Super Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. Bills Babe says, "Hey Jay, what do you think of the new defensive coordinator for Buffalo?" So yeah, we'll get into this before I get up out of here. Well, he was the linebacker, right? The linebacker linebacker coach for the Bills, which is good, which is really good because he stepped up. He, definitely, I think did a good job as far as from that position. But I think the bigger part of it is the Bills organization knew that Sean McDermott needed help. And by giving it to someone else, I think it not only is going to take some of the pressure off him, but it's going to be good because we're going to have someone else who can probably make better decisions with the defense than he can. That's going to basically be able to manage it a lot better. I've got my own gripes with Sean McDermott. You guys know that. The reality is, he's the head coach. I'm hoping that he can really, really figure it out going into next year because the general consensus from what I hear from Bills fans is they're okay with how things have been for the last 7 years. I'm not. And I think the reality is when you break down what talent the Bills have and when you break down where the Bills have been and what they've went through and what this franchise has went through, just like the Lions, the team, the town, the organization, I think deserves better. So hopefully they can get it right next year. And, we'll see. But yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to him for getting the job. I hope that he's, going to be great and figure it out. And, I just don't want to have to make another video where we're talking about how much this person sucks and they're not getting the job done. So I do wish him well. I'll be on the lookout, obviously, and we'll be talking about it. You guys know, I do wish him success. Congrats on getting the job, taking the pressure off McDermott, but he's got some shoes to fill. He's got some shoes to fill for sure. He's got a big job ahead of him to figure things out. All right, last one. Says, what would you do if Taylor Swift kicked a 25-yard field goal? I would sign out of this live. That's what I would do. Shout out to you, man. Much love to you guys. Make sure you hit that like, that thumbs up, and, of course, subscribe. I will see you all on the next one. Peace out.